everybody, it is March 19th, 2009, I am Sonic Suns. A couple days ago, on March 14th, it was Pi Day, that's 3.14 pi, and I ate some pie, and why am I talking about this? But while we're on the subject of things that have something vaguely to do with circles, I thought I might bring up a nice little philosophical concept I came up with. And that concept is called the Circle of Normalcy. Now here's the way it works. You see here, we have a big old circle in the middle that says normal on it, right? Now, going off in infinite directions either side, we have things good, getting better, in whatever fundamental sense that is, and down here, evil, and getting worse and worse, also going off the side. To either side, we have merely different, and also just merely different. Things in the middle of this circle here are normal. The closer you are to the middle, the more normal it is, generally speaking. And things off here on the side are all labeled strange. In every possible direction, it's strange, 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 by simple virtue of being not normal. Now, there's a couple points I'm going to make on this already. First, there's not exactly a dividing line, per se, between what's normal and what's strange. It's more of a spectrum, a gradient, you might say, but I couldn't draw a gradient out all so well. Secondly, everyone, every culture, every individual person, anything you could think of has its own definitions of what counts as normal and what situations and what counts as strange. So you have to understand this as a general abstraction, right? Now, my thesis or hypothesis or whatever is that very often in society or whatnot, we have a strong sense of what's normal and what is not normal, what is strange in terms of human behavior, generally, is what I'm talking about. I suppose you could apply this to other things as well, but particularly when people make choices, when they, adopt one or the other ideas or another habit, we know what's normal and what's strange. What we don't have a sense of is where these arrows are, pointing out to good, evil, and merely different. Sometimes, in fact, we don't even recognize the fact that there are arrows going off in other directions there, or we miss some of them. For instance, someone might missing out on the good arrow in their conception of this thing. So basically, if you're not normal, you must either be different or bad in some way. But there's no way you could be differing from the rest of us and yet be better. Other people in their mental map are missing the evil arrow, and so they think that, the normal way everyone in society does it is just like the worst way possible, and so if you're not normal, maybe you're different, or you're better than everybody else, but you couldn't be worse. These are generally fairly cynical people, and they don't seem to notice that maybe you could be different from everybody else in a bad way. Other times, people have the arrows all turned around, where good points to evil and evil to good and whatnot, so they think, well, I'm bucking the trends in society or whatever, and I'm doing something which is much better, and maybe it's actually much worse. Maybe your version of living is just a bad idea, and of course, the opposite also exists. Someone going off, generally they themselves won't think of themselves as evil. They might. Oftentimes, it's people still in the normal circle saying, no, you've gone off in the evil direction. You're screwing everything up. That doesn't make sense. That's wrong. That's cowardly. Let's throw any adjective you want. And maybe, no, actually, that guy's going off in the good direction. He's better than the rest of you, and you don't notice it. All you know, with relative certainty, is that he's strange in some way. And then, of course, to either side, we have the merely different version, where we say, well, that's the other person's way of doing it, and I don't know if it's particularly better or particularly worse or anything. And sometimes it is that scenario, and sometimes not so much. Maybe their other version is actually a very terrible idea, and someone should prevent it. Or maybe it's a very good idea, and we all ought to adopt it. Now, of course, the graph itself is laid out like we have an absolute idea of which way is good and evil and merely different and such. And in real life, things are very, very messy, and no one's exactly sure which things are fundamentally better, and there's ethics questions and all sorts of things. But that's the general idea of it all, is that, well, there's something out there, the good and the evil, and we get terribly confused on all this. And throughout all our confusion, one thing we know, I think, more often than not, we know what things are normal. Regardless of whether they're really good or really bad or really anything compared to anything else, we say, okay, well, this is normal. We'll all just stay in the normal. And then you can go in this circle, and maybe you'll drift up one way or the other way or any direction within that circle. But then there's the strange, which, pretty much the definition of being called the strange, is the part that most people tend to avoid. We can recognize strange things when we see them, things that go against whatever norms we're operating on here. But all we know about something that's strange is that it's very something. Very good, very evil, very merely different. And all too often I see people assuming it is one of those directions without really knowing. People will conflate these things. I run into a bunch of conspiracy theorists. They'll say, oh yeah, well so-and-so, they laughed at him and he turned out to be right. Yes, he was strange in the good sense of discovering more truth or whatever. You, however, Mr. Conspiracy Theorist, at least the vast majority of which I've talked to so far, are, in my humble opinion, often the other sense. Not evil necessarily in malicious, but ignorant anyway. That's another form of evil. And you think of yourself, well, I'm strange, and that other guy was strange, and they're laughing at both of us, and that first guy, well, he was on the good side, he was more knowledgeable than everybody else, so I am also more knowledgeable. But the area of strange is in all possible directions around the circle of normalcy. The fact that both of you are being laughed at says absolutely nothing at all about both of you being accurate, or both of you being inaccurate, both of you being anything at all. You could be any possible direction from this circle. And of course, this works in both ways. Someone will say, well, that conspiracy theorist, he was strange, and he had all sorts of crazy ideas that didn't make sense. And this other guy, his ideas seem strange, therefore they must be crazy, they don't make sense. Well, sometimes the guy who seems strange can actually be a genius. I mean, maybe it's a 1 in a million chance, I don't know, but sometimes people can be placed on any portion of this circle, inside or outside or anything at all. In particular, dealing with the strange, it's very something. Which something it is oftentimes unclear. So when I ever reference the circle of normalcy, I'm referencing all that sort of basic idea in there. Normal and not normal, and of course everyone has different standards of normal, I know. It is a general concept. And the strange being something, but make sure you don't generalize from the idea of being strange into any particular conclusion, because there's no particular conclusion you're going to draw from that, most of the time anyway. Thanks for watching. See you later.